and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome into round number 10 of the 2025 AOMX FXR Championship in MX Bikes. Coming at you from High Point tonight. That is right, Mount Morris graces us for the 10th round of 12 in this series. A fantastic championship fight that we have still brewing along, and of course, qualifying just going off in the past 20 minutes. So a lot of fun things to go over tonight. We're also going to be joined in the booth intermittently, mostly throughout the evening, by our guy Talon, who co-runs the series and will be running the race tonight. So we'll jump in Discord with him in just a second. But before we start all of this tonight, I want to give a really big shout out because it's my son's first birthday today. So happy birthday to him. Made it a whole year being a parent of two. So we're crushing it, moving right along, and excited that I even get to stream on his birthday. So happy birthday to him. And let's have some fun racing here at Mount Morris. So like I said, I'm going to jump in the Discord with Talon. We'll go over some things heading into tonight's action, and then we'll get racing here in just a minute. All right, now into the Discord with Talon joining us tonight. First off, how are you doing? Because I don't know how stressful it is to like try to stream and run a race at the same time. It's been about 12 years since I did that, but how are you holding up right now?
It's honestly, it's not too bad. Running it for 3 years now, third year in a row. We're able to kind of get it down. The first year, it's kind of how we did it anyways. And then obviously you came in and made our life a little bit easier. But yeah, it's always that little bit. It's always going to be stressful. There's always going to be people constantly like, hey, I'm not whitelisted. Hey, this or this happened. It is what it is. But luckily, we don't have too many problems now, and everyone kind of knows the format, knows what's happening, and knows how to join races and through MyMXB and everything like that.
Yeah, for sure. So, hopefully things run smoothly for you tonight, and we don't have too many issues with that. Let's talk about, first of all, this track that we're racing tonight, Mount Morris, and specifically with qualifying. Cam, who is our championship leader, goes fastest by over a second on this track. Now, I'll lean on you for this because I don't know ARL times and how close we are to that. Is this a bit of an outlier? Or is that kind of crazy to see that much of a difference?
I mean, you always feel like it is, but obviously with how it's kind of been this whole season compared to Ariel, where Ariel it's always super close. Obviously, these EU guys like Cam and TJ, other than Romeo at the front, only have like 30 minutes to an hour before the track or before qualifying starts compared to these NA guys like Brock, who I think got second in qualifying. So, that's where we kind of see the difference between these NA and EU guys is these EU guys are able to adapt just that little bit quicker. Nothing against the NA guys. I think they can as well, but just having that extra time always helps them. And yeah, I don't know. It's kind of crazy, but seeing all these EU guys always especially Cam, there's so many times where he's a second ahead of everyone that kind of shocks you whenever it comes to these qualifying times. So yeah, I don't know. It's kind of crazy, but also there's not much you could really expect with how the season's kind of gone for Cam, and hopefully he could find his get back on the right track to his winning ways that we saw a couple rounds ago.
Yeah, and we'll talk about the championship picture here in just a second. But for those of you that are maybe joining us for the first time, basically this is a one class fits all, two moto format that we run here at AOMX. And so we see some 250 guys, we see some 450 guys in the mix, and pretty much everybody has made it in since round one. There is a cutoff of 30, but everyone gets in because so many people have signed up. So you're going to see everybody that's on the qualifying sheet here tonight also actually racing on the track. There is no cutoff, basically, so we're excited to go racing here in just a minute. Trying to turn my mic up a little bit. I don't know why it was so quiet when we started, but I'm just trying to give it a little bit of gain now, and I think we're almost there, maybe. I don't know. I'll work on that as we go along. Let's talk about the championship picture really quickly, though. And Cam, after a second moto comeback at Redbud last week, able to extend the championship lead back out. It had come down to about the 15 mark on TJ, up to 18 after that moto win. But yeah, it's kind of down between those two, Talon, going into the final three races of the year. And with Cam looking fast tonight, is he maybe even looking to put it to bed tonight?
Yeah, I could definitely see him trying, but TJ has been on a run these past couple rounds. He kind of had a slow start of the season. Obviously, breaking his back real life. We've talked about that a bunch. It's kind of hindered him a little bit to kind of get back to getting comfortable. And now I think he's found his way again, and he's able to go that same pace. Obviously, we saw Chase last week. I think he should be able to race both motos. Last week, he couldn't race Moto 2 after getting that good win. Um, but yeah, Cam, he's always going to try to go for the win. Unfortunately, that bad Moto 1 last week, getting that P9 definitely hurt him. Created TJ, getting a good, decent finish inside that top 5. And it's kind of what we saw this last season. TJ's consistency, always being that top 5 guy late in the series, has always helped him. And he's looking to claw him back into his championship and maybe give himself a run at it with these last 3 rounds to go.
Yeah, I mean, TJ obviously has been on a tear these last few rounds. 1-1, 1-2, 3-4 are his moto scores basically the last 3 weeks of racing here. So congratulations to him to even get back into this, as you said, coming off of starting the year with the broken back. All right, enough of us chit-chatting. I think it's about time to go and drop the gate here in just a little bit as we'll jump into the server. Apologies that I've been making everybody wait here. And a little bit of a cloudy day, but not a rainy day here at High Point, as I have it, correct?
Yeah, they changed the skybox in game, since obviously there is that big rainstorm that happened in real life, and it cut that Moto 2 short in real life. So in aerial, they did do a dry Moto 1, a wet Moto 2. We're not doing that tonight because it's too much stress for me to really worry about, because one, I didn't even think about it. I didn't even think about it till Reed pointed it out in chat. But yeah, so we're going to do a two dry motos. The track's gonna look wet. I don't think it has like any kind of wet traction to it, but it's gonna have that wet look to it. But it's gonna ride like any normal track, I believe so.
All right, so there you have it. That is the overlook here at High Point Raceway. We're taking a look at some of our competitors going to the line here tonight, and looks like we are just about to rack them up and go racing here. The number 9 machine of Cam, obviously our points leader with those red plates. We're going to be able to see him head to toe tonight. I think we maybe just don't get the helmet, unfortunately, but still a good look for him. Also got a couple other faces we can finally see. We got TJ right there. Also can see him. Neon. Steiner sent me his gear, so finally can see a couple of these guys. We got some helmets we can see, all kinds of fun stuff. But here is the lineup from inside to out as Brock W goes on gate number 1. Brad, Dariel, Ethan, Cam, TJ, Aquas, Chase, Steiner, KFC, Coltrane, Saki, Randy, Chris, Karcher, Gooey, Kai, DA425, Bongo, Vic, and way outside here we have CYDN and Krusty ready to go racing here at High Point. So sit back and enjoy the show. 230 minutes plus 2 ready to come at you, and it's all about to start right now. Time has expired. The 15-second board is going to go up. It'll go sideways, and everyone's giving one last look to each other down the line. Who's going to get that all-important hole shot? Let's find out. It's time to go racing from High Point. Moto 1 coming at you right now. What a jump by TJ by the looks of it. Up the middle. He's going to push a little bit wide, but a lot of guys went down to his outside. And TJ, I think just by a nose, got beat to the whole shot line by Brad, but that inside line is going to work plenty for him. Goes around the outside, hits the triple at the top of the hill in the race lead, and there he goes at the front of the field, Talon.
Yeah, there goes TJ. He gets that good start that we've been waiting for, and he finally gets one. We'll see what he could do working with it. We see Brad. He actually get a good, decent start as well. We see him up front for the first time in a while. We got Chase, Dariel, Neon, Randy, and Cam just a little bit. We got a lot of heavy hitters out front, so we will have to wait and see if we have any battles. But TJ trying to run away with it early, and then we got Brad trying to follow in pursuit, bringing all the heavy hitters with him.
Yeah, TJ hits the big monster quad on lap number 1 in the race lead. We've got Brad and Chase right on his heels, and then Dariel and Neon coming down the hill in 4th and 5th. What a good freight train of riders that is, leading the field down. Looks like Cam maybe went down in 7th. Doesn't lose a position as he crashed going into the valley right there, but did lose some time.
Brad, it looks like.
Well, I saw Cam also off the bike in the valley back here in the 7th spot. So yeah, Brad went down as well. He goes from 2nd all the way back to 6th behind Brock W. That promotes Neon a position. Dariel and Chase move up to 2nd and 3rd with Chase at the point of that. They're all chasing TJ to the top of the hill, but a lot of shuffling for positions here on the opening lap. Now the question is, TJ, not really a guy that's gotten out front of late. I feel like he's had bad luck in first turns and a lot of chaos and carnage. How well does he handle the pressure of trying to lead this race on the opening few laps?
We talked about it a little last week or the last couple weeks. Is someone who's normally used to charging through the pack like Chase, and TJ, how would they, feel being out front, having that open air? Does it give them a bit of nerves? I don't think TJ, from the aerial being out front, they got Daryl following close in pursuit after he had a good race last week, holding on to Chase all the way to the end there. And we'll see if he could get another one as Chase goes over the bars, front flip. He's able to land it actually, and he's able to go on through. And it looks like, Daryl's going to move in that P2 and maybe try to go after TJ.
Yeah, heart and mouth moment right there for Chase, who probably thought he was on his way to the ground and able to ride out of it. Good job to save it. Obviously, he's going to be frustrated to lose a position, but he already looks right back on the charge, going after Daryl for this 2 spot as we follow them up into this back section before the big uphill quad. TJ opening up that gap just a little bit now and maybe taking a little bit of the pressure off from the early lead. These two just going at it. And how about Daryl? These last couple of weeks really come to light. Obviously, fantastic set of motos last time out, but even this week, right up at the sharp end of the field and battling with some of the stars of this series right from the get-go. He's completely turned into a new guy in the second half of this championship.
Yeah, we've definitely been seeing a lot with some of these guys. Obviously, LV a couple weeks ago getting on the podium, Dario last week, and these guys late into our season able to, kind of work their way to the front. And Chase is trying to find his way around him, but he looks to be losing a little bit of touch here after coming out of that wood section, going around that long sweeper. But these three have all kind of pulled away a little bit from Neon, who's in 4th, and then it's starting to, fade back to Cam. It looks like he might have lost Brad. He's fallen all the way down behind Brock in P7 now.
Tough break for Brad, who, like we said, may have just narrowly got the whole shot. Yeah, it actually does show he got the whole shot by a nose. So Brad, our whole shot winner, all the way back into the 7 spot, starting to just slightly spread out. 2 seconds back to Daryl, 4 to Chase, Neon 6 back, and then Brad, who actually moves up to 5th on corrected time by the looks of it, is got a little bit of leeway back to that. So Cam already seems to have, what, I don't even know, maybe 4 or 5 seconds of cuts. Yeah, 4 seconds. 4. So 4 seconds of cuts right there for Cam as he's trying to work his way up into a position where he could battle these guys, already going off the track a couple of times. And for his sake, he's probably a little bit frustrated about that, but just shows how much you have to push the pace to stick with these guys in these early laps.
Yeah, definitely. He comes into this race with only an 18-point lead over TJ, and the way TJ's been riding, this is definitely not what Cam wants, especially after that bad first moto last week, getting a P9 there. So he wants to try to charge forward, but if you look ahead of him, everything is already starting to spread out, and TJ's already starting to check out in the lead.
Yeah, I wonder how much Cam is once again kind of thinking about the championship. We asked both of them last week after the race how much they were thinking about it, and they kind of laughed. They said, yeah, we're in the same call together. We're kind of just teasing each other, and TJ's telling Cam to crash, and Cam's just giving it back to him. So maybe it's going to be a little less cordial with 3 to go as we get down to the nitty-gritty here, but you can tell this championship does matter. TJ has risen to the occasion, and Cam is riding completely out of his shoes at this point, but the starts are just what's really hindered him these last few weeks.
Yeah, and if things finish the way they are right now with Cam getting P5, that brings his points lead only down to 9 points ahead of TJ if he can't move forward anymore. It's actually he sees Neon ahead of him, making a small mistake in that outside route. See if he can get the drive up this triple. They're kind of stretching that one there. He's going to follow him around the inside line. They're kind of taking all insides around this section into the long sweeping turn here, going across the start straight. Ooh, Cam runs into the back of him. He's able to get around the outside and just rail around Neon after that small mistake and almost going down.
That was a move and a half by Cam to just squeeze in there and make that pass stick, especially considering, of course, Neon is teammates with TJ, as friendly as they all are. Teammates seem to matter maybe just that little extra more, and able to dispose of Neon and move up officially into the 4 spot on track, but still listed as 5th, obviously, with the corrected time. TJ still leads over Daryl, and how surprised are you that Chase has not been able to do anything with Daryl? He's been pretty much right on his back tire since that early little front flip coming down the Carmichael double, and even Daryl maybe opening it up a little bit on Chase now. He's not been able to stick right with him.
Yeah, definitely, I would have said earlier in the season, it would have been a little surprising, but after last week's ride, it's not too much of a surprise. He held with Chase pretty much all the way to the end of that first moto, and then that second moto, he was kind of buried and had to work through the pack, and you see, like you said, he's starting to pull away from Chase, and we'll see if he has anything for TJ, but right now he's riding a really good race, and he's really starting to come alive in these last 2 rounds here.
Yeah, so Daryl is actually, I mean, just as we watch this battle unfolding, he's getting away even more. It almost looks visually like he's closing on TJ, but then you kind of look a little bit further out and see that gap is still opening up. TJ riding excellent out front, and I guess this is what makes him a champion, right? Just the ability to rise to the occasion. He needs to win these races. He can't lose any more points to Cam down the stretch run here, and he's putting all the pressure on Cam at this point, I feel like, by just riding as good as we knew that he could ride this entire time. This is what a champion does, rises to the occasion when he needs to.
Yeah, we saw it last season where, the first season he got P2 to, I believe, Yorks, and then last season he was able to really pull ahead of all these guys and get into a league of his own, getting a lot of, podiums, and he actually leads, the all-time stats list in overall podiums, and I think moto podiums as well. So that just shows how consistent he is and how, quick he could be to get those consistent podiums each and every week.
Now, I'll ask you this. When he missed the first 2 rounds of the season, we knew the back issues, and then he comes back and he just kind of doesn't seem like himself. Was there a part of you at any point in time that thought, oh, he's too far out of this? Or did you always kind of believe this was going to come back at some point?
The way with his speed, I always kind of thought, there was a slight chance, but also I thought it was completely over once Cam started getting on that run in those, those middle motos there for a bit. So there's always that slight little chance, obviously, with his pace, but yeah, the way that Cam was going, I definitely thought it was over, and now we see that he was able to, reel it back in, and now he has a good shot at getting this title, even after this moto moving into after this race moving into that points lead. Yeah,
well, we'll see what happens, obviously, with Cam in this race. We'll go back and find where he's at again. Totally has dropped Neon, and in fact has caught the Daryl Chase battle, which did switch up a little bit. Chase got around Daryl as they come down the downhill now, and Cam's trying to get at him as well. Daryl off the track, and that's going to be a free position for Cam, who needs all the time that he can get here, especially with those penalties potentially racking up. Now, again, I'm not too sure of this. Maybe you do know. Is this a track that is a little bit more prone to off-track penalties? Like, are we going to see these rack up for other guys, or is this just a situation where Cam kind of got bit by it early on?
It might have been only bit early on, because a lot of guys still have no cuts, and people that do have 2 or 1 second of cuts. So I don't think it's going to be giving you a lot of cuts. I think he just got really unlucky with maybe a crash early on that set him off track. One thing about Darrow's crash there, though, is I think I saw him actually go down there is what gave Chase that P2. So he might be struggling with that turn there, and that might, he might be thinking about that coming next time around and see if Neon can get by him there as well.
Yeah, Daryl certainly didn't quite like that outside line. I wonder if he'll actually change it up, go inside at the bottom of the off-camber hill this time by, as Cam looks forward and sees an orange machine. That is Chase of the Charged Cycle Works number 11 up the road, and here's the gaps from above. There is TJ going the other way as these two work into the back section. So TJ's opened this up quite nicely. Again, if you're new to watching MX Bikes racing, that is not necessarily the most comfortable lead. It's comfortable enough because if he does fall, he could probably still get up in the lead, and at least comfortably so at that rate. But we've seen the mistakes come around, and these guys, even when it looks like they're in control, will lose it late. How about this battle for second starting to brew, though? Looks like Chase, a little bit of bobbles himself, has allowed Cam into the works, and I think that raw speed that Cam has is maybe a bit too much for all these other guys right now.
Yeah, he went off track there. There might be something on that outside these guys just aren't liking. It's not helping their bikes out. But, one thing that a lot of people probably will notice on that leaderboard is Chase is one of the few KTM riders out here. And the KTM is a little bit down on power compared to the, the Yamaha, the Fantic, and maybe some of the other bikes. But it is a bike that he feels really comfortable on. He's always preaching how good the bike is. And he's always the main guy to always run that KTM over everything else. So that might be why, Cam might be a little bit easier to catch from just having that little bit extra horsepower. But Chase, he's starting to pull that gap out once again just from being comfortable and having spent tons of time on that machine.
Yeah, and they're working through a little bit of lap traffic already. Of course, not going to be a full field of back markers per se, but enough guys out there that got to be mindful of what they do. Krusty gets off to the side of the track and lets both of these guys go by nicely. But I wonder if you're TJ in this situation, you're starting to get through some of these lappers as well. He's hit a group of 3 or 4 of them here. And when you're the first one to them, not only is it tough, but he's kind of all by himself, so he might even sneak up on these guys a little bit because they're thinking maybe it's just somebody else I'm still battling with behind me, right?
Yeah, it's always scary, you know, the blue flag system in this game. It's not like Sim where you have that big bar on the bottom of your screen to kind of let you know. All these guys, there is a blue flag that'll wave sometimes, and other times it just won't because it goes based off like a full sector. So with TJ and his amount of speed compared to these guys, he could quickly catch up to these guys without them ever getting a blue flag, and that's definitely not the situation you want to have happen, but it looks like he was able to get around these 3 lappers right here and is able to help him out, you know, kind of smoothly, and now he gets to check out even more ahead of Chase and Cam.
Yeah, I mean, even that group of 2 lappers that he just went by right there, one kind of seemed to notice he was there and pulled off to the left side, and the other one was still racing on the main line till he noticed that lapper was also moving out of the way. So they kind of traded off a little bit, let them go, and next up it is going to be Chase and Cam that will have to deal with them, as going sideways across the track was Gooey as he went down. And there's that same rider or 2-rider group as Chase gets sideways on the Carmichael double and goes down. Hands over the position to Cam up to P2. He has made it all the way there. Now can he get far enough away from Chase and these guys to make sure that gap stays status quo, and he is going to finish in P2 no matter what. I think there's plenty of time to do that. I wonder, though, if you're Cam, how much farther you think about looking forward at TJ and trying to run him down with the speed that he has.
We've seen it a lot. He's always fast in those late race motos. He could always pick up the pace whenever he wants to. But Chase as well is another rider that he's always seems to turn it on those last 15 minutes. We see it every time he's gotten to the lead so far. He's been able to check out, and we've seen at some points where he's winning by about 30 to 40 seconds over everyone else. So I wouldn't give up on Chase yet, but Cam, with his pace he's had all season, it's gonna be close whether he decides to go after TJ or if he's gonna settle and take the 3-point loss and move on to next moto.
Halfway through, coming up in this race, is 16 minutes have come and gone. We're still going to have, 14 minutes have come and gone. We'll still have 16 minutes plus those 2 laps to go. But let's get a quick little eye on the gaps right here as we see TJ coming down at the bottom of the hill, then back to Cam as we look back up the hill. Chase still hanging close, and I think that based on Cam's cuts, that might actually go in the way of Chase as we're looking at it. DA, Gooey, and, those 2 guys trying to get out of the way as Daryl comes down the hill in P4. And then a bit of a gap behind that. Kai is the next one to be lapped by Neon as they come down the hill there. So Neon rounds out our top 5 on the 11 machine. Then Aqua's and KFC having a good fight right now as they come down the hill nearly side by side. KFC's trying to get up the inside, make that pass work, and they're going to be almost bar to bar on the uphill triple, but Aqua's able to shut it down and hold the position. There's Steiner going by on the 350. Brad goes all the way back to the 9 spot after hole shotting this race, and then Krusty a lap down before we see Ethan of the AEO CDS, or the AEO program, I should say, right there. His teammate Brock W coming down in the 11 spot, and a few seconds back of that should be Stargame. Yeah, the MXL Racing Aptus program coming down the hill, getting all kinds of kick. This track looks absolutely gnarly just in the normal conditions, and then it's continuing to get worse and worse. Wow, that's a huge gap from Stargame to Randy. That's probably the biggest gap we have of the lead group right there. Randy running in the 13 spot, almost by himself. Saki a few seconds back of that, and then you can see Chris launching down the hill. Again, another 16-second gap back from that all the way to Vic and Karcher, as we'll wait and see them. And then after that should be our leaders coming through, so we want to just see how these gaps come around. Never mind, TJ has already gotten around Vic and Coltrane and Karcher, so TJ is making some quick work through the field. Shorter lap time on this track as well, something of note. We don't have that over 2-minute lap time like we've seen it some of these other rounds that we've been at. It's like the 140s, high 140s for lap time, so even that, he's probably going to run into a lot of these same lappers a couple times, I would think.
Yeah, most definitely. I did notice, though, it went from 12 seconds to only 10 seconds down. So he lost a little bit of time there. Yeah, last lap he ran a 49.9 compared to Chase's 48.8, and looks like Cam might have went down, and he's fallen further back and even behind Chase now on track.
Oh, yeah, so they have swapped positions not only on track but on the leaderboard again. Chase was closing it down, and I think got it close enough to pass him on corrected time, but now enough to even just pass him straight up and continue on. So the charge we thought might be brewing with Cam has all but stifled, at least at this point in time. He's going to have to try to figure out his way around Chase. And remember, the way the point structure works, he would be looking at going down to just a 13-point lead over TJ if it were to end like this. But if we can go inside the head of Cam for just a minute, and we go back to last week, frustrating first moto at Redbud, ends up ninth after a few crashes. I mean, he rebounded so well in the second moto. Good start, got off to the lead, able to hold on for the win. If you're him and you know the speed that you have, a third here almost could feel like a win because you're setting yourself up quite well for Moto 2, right?
Yeah, I think it does feel like a win. Probably also to us, it would feel like a win. Oh, and down he goes there, wood section. But for him, I feel like he might be a little disappointed because obviously he had Chase. He probably had it down, I think it was to 8 seconds at one point to TJ. So, I mean, he might be a little disappointed if he can't even get Chase. But I still would consider it a good ride. You know, still a good podium. Definitely, like I said, a better rebound after last week's Moto 1. But, yeah, I don't know if he'll be too excited about it, especially losing those 5 points that if he loses that 3 more times, that's the points lead over for him, and he's going to fall down to P2 in the championship because of it.
Yeah, he's got to try to button it down and minimize the damage as much as possible. But Chase has kind of just walked away from him, and you mentioned those lap times. We still have 12 minutes still on the clock, plus those 2 laps, basically. Chase is starting to kind of wick it up a little bit again. That gap down to 8.8 seconds. And if we see more mistakes, and the mistakes instead come from Chase, who lays it down in the rollers. So he had opened it up over Cam, and suddenly that gap is back down a little bit. Coltrane separating them right there. But we saw a slight glimmer of hope these guys might run down TJ. Maybe out the door right there with that crash.
Definitely. He was running, last lap he ran a 48.1 compared to TJ's 49.7. So it's second, or 1.6 seconds quicker than TJ last lap. So I don't know if he could find that flow again. If he does, there's definitely enough time for him to still catch up. But if he makes another mistake like that, he's going to have to worry about Cam getting around him on track there.
Yeah, Cam just absolutely flying down the hill trying to get around Coltrane, who taking up the main line, but